So now when you think we've used 6-foot wide one-way tillers, and now after about 75 years later, the farmers are using 60-foot, even 60-foot wide tillers, or they use cultivators more now, and even 70-foot wide machinery now. And back then, it didn't even dawn on us. You know, we just went in the field to, well, the fields were smaller then, as a rule. And, you know, we had these smaller fields. Some were only 30 acres, some 50 acres, some, you know, the odd one was 100 acres, but mostly these little ones. And then, you know, and we used to, so much trouble. We'd make a strikeout when we'd go in there, and we'd sometimes step out a field and start kind of in the middle, you know, and would step it off and then make a nice straight line, you know, to a place that is stepped off at the other end of the field, so we'd get nice straight furrows to, you know, and stuff like that. And you know, it just didn't dawn on us that we should really have something wider. And really, it was a good life. You know, we went out there and we learned how to repair things. These darn, well, we done a lot of swearing when we used to break down. We'd always be breaking down with all these rocks, you know, with these discs. They were always breaking. The shaft would break. The disc blades would always break, and you'd be taking that stuff apart and stuff like that. That's where we learned it. It wasn't very long. I think we got our first welder maybe in 1955, if I remember, and of course that welder just steadily put to work. So anyhow, we sure learned how to fix. I remember Carl, brother's 7 years older. He was so proud when he done something. You know, he'd make that one way. That's quite a trick to level that one way, to make it nice in the field, that, you know, you didn't ridge too much and stuff like that. And he was proud of that, you know, and then he tried to teach us how to do that, you know, and so on. And we just sat there, so boring, and that's all I had in my head is, oh, I just want to leave this farm. I'll never farm in my life. I want to be a cowboy. I seen the first rodeo at Meadow Lake. That was the worst mistake my dad ever done, is take us to Meadow Lake to go to watch a stampede, and after that we wanted to ride broncs or cows and everything, you know. And Carl, you know, he'd never think of something like that. He'd just try, he'd be so proud, you know, of making stuff work and making stuff run like this, and we thought that he was so terrible. I don't know what the word is, you know, that how could somebody be so dumb that you'd want to fool around with that machinery, not old machinery, but, and think that was a real proud thing. Of what I wanted to be is, I wanted to be a cowboy riding in the rodeos, you know? Or if not that, at least be a fiddle player and have, you know, playing on the radio and stuff like that. None of that darn stuff, and fixing that broken stuff, and trying to make them tractors run and blow out the gas lines, and, you know, and stuff like that. And I always thought I was so terrible at fixing. You know, we all did. It is just because we were always in the presence of older people. And, you know, we're always compared there, you know. Oh, you're dumb, you know, you can't. And then after a while, well, I got on my own, got away from my older brother and stuff like this, and so started fixing a whole lot of stuff. And I really can't say that I'm a klutz now, you know. I can fix, I'm sure I can. Back in those days, we used to pick stones by hand. Even when I was as young as, well, you know, 8 years old or so, I even was out there picking stones. All us kids and our family, and Margaret too, our sister, you know, everybody went out and picked stones because we had so many stones out there. And we'd pick literally for weeks out there on that land. And, but what the heck, you know, you got used to that. But we thought it was a terrible job, and we thought it was the worst job on the farm, and everybody else did too. And it sure was the worst job on the farm. And I never ever remember like a day that my dad would say, well, it's too hot today, let's not pick stones or something. There's no such thing as being too hot, or maybe being a little bit too windy or something like that. Like we, you know, we went out there and we stayed out there till, and we usually picked, you know, we picked, you know, till 7 o'clock at least at night. Like when we went out with tractors, right away off the bat, we used to go seed, and we went right from, we were out in the field at 7 o'clock in the morning usually, and would be out there 10 o'clock at night yet to seed. It made sense, you know, and we'd get our seeding done, and that was our day when we went seeding. But when we, with summer following the summer, and then when time, you know, didn't mean so much to us, then we'd quit a little earlier, a lot of times, maybe at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So it was a kind of a thing when we picked stones. Maybe a day would be something like, well, it would be a little sluggish getting going in the field. Maybe we'd start 8 o'clock and then take just about an hour off for dinner, and then would pick till about 7 o'clock in the evening, or maybe a little later. That was our day when we used to pick stones. I remember our dad all the time would always have a water jug in the corner, and Dad, right away, you know, in the morning, get fresh water. Oh, this water, it's not fresh. Pour it out, get fresh water. That was his thing all the time, fresh water. And if somebody ever done a little thing and had some trouble or something, you know, and, wait, I get some fresh water. Get a jug of fresh water. And we always had crowbar on here all the time. So that's the way we done it. And when all of us family used to be out there picking, lots of times we'd get into real good conversations. Everybody would be talking and teasing somebody over something, or, you know, disagreeing, kind of have a friendly argument, you know. Lots of good talking, you know. I always wondered about that. You know, that was one thing that came out of this, all this stone picking in the family, was these good visits that we had. And we sure learned how to work, you know. After a few years of picking rocks by hand, then one of the first rock pickers that came out was the Crown rock picker. It was this one here. And it was just a bucket with teeth on. And you'd go to the individual stones and just pick one up at a time. And you got pretty good at picking after a while with it. But you'd get really frustrated, you know, and just like everybody says, well, if you think they don't work very good, then get off and pick by hand for a while. And then you get back on and pick, and then they work good again. So that was the first rock picker. Then later on, real type rock pickers came along. And there was a lot of bad ones. Manufacturers, they had a hard time trying to build a real good rock picker. And one of the best ones that were probably made back there in that time, you know, the late 50s or something like that, was Degelman's. And Degelman had a pretty good rock picker. And farmers, a lot of the farmers tried making rock pickers. And you know, you'd go out and picking, and you'd see something that wasn't working right. And then, like a lot of the farmers, or like ourselves and everything, especially my brother Joe, he was more inventive than I was. You know, he'd look and say, oh, I could go back and make a way better rock picker. And a lot of them guys did try and make rock pickers like that. Some of our neighbors, and I think Joe was involved too in some of this stuff, this inventing, and you know, it was hard going. You never really got a real good rock picker yet. And even with those good Degelmans, there's still not a real good thing yet. And today we can just turn this camera around and you see a big operation here where they're seeding with with the latest equipment and stuff like that, which happens to be Grant Kuipers. He's renting some of this land here. That is mine, and they got the biggest and latest machinery. Well, not the biggest and latest, there's bigger stuff than that, but boy oh boy, it's big to me. Yeah, and there's some farmers who went right out and tried building self-propelled rock pickers, and so many of them failed and failed and failed, and some of them were about half successful. And even a lot of the companies, machine companies that built rock pickers, all kinds of rock pickers, so many of them failed. So many of them worked, you know, where there was not very many rocks. But in our land where there was lots of rocks, well, it was a different story. You had to have a machine that really worked good. And here's one machine that the Rockomatic builders wanted. It used to be a real type picker here, and it didn't work at all. You couldn't even use it. So anyhow, we had that laying around, and so I just took the whole front off, and I built a fork here with big teeth here, and just for picking the big rocks. And I was really successful in building a rock picker that really worked, picking the real big ones like that. You could kind of half dig them out even. And so I was really proud of this. So anyhow, so Carl, if you're looking down and you still think that I can't fix anything, or Pa, He didn't think I knew how to put the clevis in on the stone boat. I remember that time when he gave me hell. Didn't know how to put the bolt in the clevis in the stone boat. Holy man. So anyhow, you two guys, I didn't turn out too bad. Here's what kind of a tractor drill that we used to have. I think this is an old Massey Harris or something. And when you go through this old drill, in the lift and everything like that, you know, holy man, you look for that day and age. There's quite a complicated thing, that power lift on it. But anyhow, so we hooked the tractor up to the drill then and decided to put the horses out to the pasture. And I can remember my very first time I came in the field. I think I was about 14 years old. And Carl, he was driving the tractor. He was seeding. And then I was going to seed. And then he told me, he says, you've got to go right beside the last run that you left off. Don't leave any more than about 6 inches. Try and keep about 6 inches, or maybe you can even stray away 10 inches or so, but no more than that. Try to keep it all the time, you know, 6, 8 inches. So I got on the tractor, this old tractor, you know. Well, it wasn't so old, I guess, but the steering was just terrible, you know. And I was steering that, trying to get right up close exactly to that last run. And I went for a one whole strip to the other end, and I got off the tractor. I says, I can't do this. That'll drive me crazy. Who can do such a thing like this? And I think, what can I do? Should I just cry, or should I just go home and just tell him I'm too sick or something? I can't do this. You go crazy trying to. So then I turned around and went back again. Then turned around and went up again. Pretty soon it just about killed me, but I got a little used to that. And then in a few days' time, well, holy man, I almost kind of liked it. And then I was always the drill man for many years, many years. And had wider drills then. And, you know, and I would just love to seed like that. I would sooner go seeding than go fishing. I'll tell you a story about my dad. He always seeded lots of other stuff. He always had all kinds of ideas. Going to seed some registered oats and seed 3 acres of registered oats, and I got so many bags of this. And then we want to put some creeping red fescue, 2 pounds an acre, and then this crested wheatgrass. I put a half a pound in, and on, and he'd go with his pencil, you know, and figure this out. So of course there were different compartments in the different things, and so you know you couldn't seed that precise, you know. So I'd stake out things and stuff like that, and I'd go seeding, and pretty soon I'd have half done seeding, and I'd find out I'm not even seeding half heavy enough, you know. And then maybe I'd turn around and go over again, but I didn't tell him this. Or I had seed left over, or too much crested wheatgrass or whatever, and I'd hide some bags or something to keep it from him. or take some of that oats and throw it in another granary so he wouldn't find out. And he always thought, well, I was just a genius, with that drill. I could just seed every little patch just right, And he even told somebody that, that Raymond, he is good. He is good at figuring that out. He can seed that right out. Just what you want. He can do that. Oh man.